then left clicking on it. And now if I want to create like a lip, which is not just straight up, but face on top. And there we go. So now I can reselect that line by holding down Alt and then left clicking on it. And now if I want to create like a lip, which is not just straight up, but a little bit out, I would just scale. So S to scale, and then just pulling my mouse out until it looks something like that. Do a click to confirm. Okay. And then I'm going to do another extrusion because I'm going to create like another bit, like a little bit of a flat area. Okay. So E, and then I don't actually want to pull it upwards. Obviously I want to pull it outwards. So what I do is I cancel the movement. And now that I'm in that state, I'm going to hit S to pull outwards like so. By the way, I should show you as well. If after you have, if you extruded, you've now got double, it will create all time. And then you're going to go by vertices. And that's how you fit in the description because as I said where it started from, but then I'm to my plate. And then now that it's here, I'm going to do one further extrusion upward. Hand like that up. Looking plate that you sometimes see in video games. And they can only put tables and things often end up, and the first vision surface right where my head is, or you can access it from the search subdivision. There we go. Okay, cool. And I'm going to go level 2, and we've got that crimping effect happening to the middle of our plate there. So just like before, and actually let's hide my donut and my icing just so that I can focus on the plate. And I'm also going to turn off the subdiv just so that I can select this single face here. Because just like before, the reason that's happening is it's like right on the edge there. It has to like convert all that into like a single point in the middle. And it's just too ugly when it starts there. So we just may have to make it start way further in the middle like that. And then when we do that, it's clear. It's practically invisible. You can only see it if you get really close, but you won't see it because it'll be under the donut and it'll be smooth. Anyway. Cool. Now I can tighten up the edges here because this is looking very, very ugly when it starts. It has to like convert all that into like a single point in the middle. And it's just too ugly when it starts there. So like here. And actually, let's also going to turn off the subdiv just so that I can select this single face here. Because just like before, the reason that's happening is it's like right on the edge there. It has to like convert all that into like a single point in the middle. And it's just too ugly when it starts there. So we just may have to make it start way further in the middle like that. Ugly when it starts there. So we just may have to make it start way further in the middle like that. And then when we do that, it's clear. It's practically invisible. You can only see it if you get really close, but you won't see it because it'll be under the donut and it'll be smooth. Anyway, cool. Now I can tighten up the edges here because this is looking very, very smooth. So I showed you before how you can add a loop cut. You can do Control R, okay, and that'll add a loop cut in the middle, and then I just pull it out towards the edge like that to make a the icing, yes, the exciting icing for our donut. But first, we do have quite a lot of objects going on in our scene. We've got a camera, lamp, we've got an object, an image and stuff. We should yourself. Welcome back. Just modeling from that reference that I already had, but this we did scientists working for this extra geometry to play. Do it by hitting to where it was. So definitely is it's like doing a fake kind of tighten to 0. Okay, and that'll won't see it because it'll be under the donut and it'll be smooth. Anyway, cool. Now I can tighten up the edges here because this is looking very, very smooth. So I showed you before how you can add a loop cut. You can do Control R, okay, and that'll add a loop cut in the middle, and then I just pull it out towards the edge like that to make a smoothed, sharpened point. Yeah, anyway, um, the other way to do it, which I didn't talk about, but you can do a crease. So if we just hold down Alt and then we select that line there, you can do a crease. If you right click, you'll see you've got their edge crease, or the hotkey Shift E. So in this, when you do Shift E, you'll see at the top there, you're pulling out basically a value from 1 to 0. And essentially what it's doing is it's like doing a fake from. So in this, when you do their edge crease, or the hotkey Shift E. So in this, when you do Shift E, you'll see at the top there, you're pulling out basically a value from 1 to 0. And essentially what it's doing is it's like doing a fake kind of tighten on that edge there. So it's kind of like pulling it out and just making it a sharper point. It doesn't look as nice. You don't get as much of a bevel because there's no geometry being added there like you would if you were to actually do a loop cut. You get all this extra geometry. So it's not as good, but for like small things, it's generally fine to do something like that. All right, I'm going to do a shade smooth now because I want to see how that looks. And that's pretty good. Now, the only other thing, the exact same thing. It's weird that like three things in this small little look like icing. So what I'm going to, we're halfway there. Basically half of this donut. So if we got half the donut, we're halfway there. Then we just need to add some variation to it to make it look like icing. So what I'm going to do is duplicate my donut. So Shift D, that is how you duplicate. You can also just go Object and then say duplicate objects there, Shift. D. And when you do this, you are in the duplicated state and it's saying now where do you want to and when you do this, you are in the duplicated state and it's saying now where do you want to place that thing. And we don't want to place it anywhere. We want to leave it exactly where it was. And so I'm going to hit escape. Now, when you do that, it hasn't canceled the duplication because you can see at the top there, we've now got donut and then donut 0.001. So there is two objects still there. They're just exactly in the exact same spot. Fighting for space. Something you actually never want to have is two objects sharing the exact same space, because then when a camera moves or something happens in an animation, you see like flickering, really, really bad. Anyways, I'm going to double click that. I'm going to call it icing just so that I can quickly tell the two apart. And I want to delete the bottom half of my donut. So I'm going to go into front view mode like that. And I need to go into edit mode next. And I want to select the bottom half of my donut. This is face select. Currently, let's go vertice select. Okay. And if I was to click and then just drag over the bottom half of my donut, it would appear as though as we have got half the donut. However, and this is an area of Blender that is not clear until you run into problems, but if I was to change my orbit, you can see it hasn't actually selected half the donut. It's only selected what it could see from that view. So you have to turn on toggle X-ray first or go into wireframe mode. Yeah, you have to turn that on first, then do your selection. And now it will actually select, yeah, you have toggle selected what it could see from that view. So you have to turn on toggle X-ray first or go into wireframe mode. Yeah, you have to turn that on first, then do your selection. And now it will actually select all the way through an object to the other side as well. By the way, if you find that you can't do this drag selection that I've got, if you've got instead a circle over your cursor, like what I have here, what that means is you have tapped the W key by mistake, which will cycle through in the top little side of your screen there, different selection modes. I wish it was not W. That's one of my complaints I've made to the Blender team. W is so close to the other keys you need on your keyboard. So many people hit this, they hit the wrong key, and then they're in this thing, and then like nothing works. So like yeah, you want to be in this mode most of the time. But yeah, you can change to these other modes if you wanted to, do a special selection or something as well. But anyways, that is how to fix that. And also just to call it out as well, we're going to be doing some like stuff with this icing that's going to maybe mess some things up and you might run into some issues. I got to call it out again. I've got an unstuck yourself guide, troubleshooting guide for just this tutorial. It is free. Just click the link below and it'll take you there. Because I want you guys to be able to get through this tutorial, but there's so many little things that you could experience in this. So we're going to add it to that guide to try and help you. And if you can't find the answer to I'll link to my website and all the links will be there. So we have to delete it. So I'm going to hit X. When you do this, it's saying which part of it you want to delete. Now, this is one of those cases where it actually matters like which one of these you select. Because if you were to select vertices, because it would appear as though that's what you need to delete. But if you did that, you'll notice you've got now less than half, because along with the vertices selected is that final line that is cut through the middle there. So I don't want to delete that final line. I want to delete the other stuff. So in my options here, I've got an option for faces, which if we try that, you can see is the solution, because when you are deleting the faces, you're only deleting what is a whole face. But these individual points here don't make up a whole face. This part does, so that's left behind. But all the other stuff was deleted. So anyways, we should now have half of a donut. So I'm going to turn off toggle X-ray now so I can see it. And if we clicked off, you'll see that it actually just looks exactly like a donut, because again, they're sharing the exact same space. I do know it's there if I select it in the little outliner there, but it's completely invisible. So the first thing I want to do is I want to add some thickness to this icing. And this is something you should know how to do. You should know it. If you don't know it, you've not been paying attention. But if you go to your modifiers, there's a modifier, another clue. It is, of course, the solidify modifier, which adds thickness to any face. So now that we've added that, you think something's broken, it's not working. It is working. It's just that by default, the solidify will add thickness inside. So if you change this offset here to be the inverted, which is 1, it will now add the thickness the other way, which is what we need. Okay. So that's great. But of course, it doesn't look very good. There's a quote which I always repeat. Imperfection is the digital perfection, because the reason this looks fake, it's just perfectly straight. There's no way to get a laser cut icing across a donut like this unless you're using 3D software. So we need to add randomness to this edge here in order for it to look realistic to our eye. So I need to go into edit mode. And when we do that, we can't see the mesh because we've got our solidifier blocking our view. So I'm going to click this disable in viewport just to hide it so that I can see it. So when I turn it back on, I know it's there, but just while I'm editing it, in order to see it, I need to be able to have it turned off. So to add randomness, what I could do is I could come in here and I could select one point like this. I could hit G and I could move it down. Okay. Then I could get the point next to it and I could move this one down and then this one, and I could do this and do this, and we could put ourselves to sleep trying to make this donut look good, and it would take forever. But thankfully in 3D, there are tools for everything to make your life easier. And so one such tool is at the top here, your proportional editing tool. What this does is now when I hit G, it'll move everything at once. No, what it will do is it will move everything with a fall off area around it. The reason it's moving the entire mesh with it is that the fall off is so big that it's actually outside of our view at the moment. This was actually something I called out in my usability talk at the Blender conference last year. We could do better than this, but basically if you zoom way out, you will see there is a circle around it. And that's how big it is. So what we need to do is, whilst we're in this move state, is we need to reduce that. And you do that by scrolling down. Scroll down, 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 down. Oh no, that was the wrong direction. Scroll up. Sorry, scroll up, not down. And that will make it smaller. So scroll does is now when I hit G, it'll move everything at once. No, what it will do is it will move everything with a fall off area around it. The reason it's moving the entire mesh with it is that the fall off is so big that it's actually outside of our view at the moment. This was actually something I called out in my usability talk at the Blender conference last year. We could do better than this, but basically if you zoom way out, you will see there is a circle around it, and that's how big it is. So what we need to do is, whilst we're in this move state, is we need to reduce that, and you do that by scrolling down. Scroll down, 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 down. Oh no, that was the wrong direction. Scroll up. Sorry, scroll up, not down. And that will make it smaller. So scroll up to make it smaller, scroll down to make it bigger. I just completely brain farted. If you don't have a scroll wheel, by the way, and this is another thing to call out, when you're in a move state like we are right now, you can see along the bottom of our screen, you've got a list, and that only appeared there when you're in that state. When I turn it off, all those options are gone. But whilst I'm in this state, there's a bunch of options there. And the keyboard shortcut is actually right there, page up and page down. Okay, so that is how we can increase or decrease. So again, if you don't see the circle, you just have to keep holding page down or scrolling up until it goes down to something that you can see, basically. Anyways, now that we are in that state, I'm going to hit Z, okay, to grab, So whilst I'm doing, I don't want to just like freehand do it, because if I pull it down like this, if I watch what happens, if I do it on the edge here like this, it appears as though it's pulling it straight down, right? And I do this and this. But actually, if you looked at it, these would be slightly skewed a little bit, just because of like, we're working in 3D. We're looking at things from a different perspective. Sometimes things appear to be going down, but they're actually at like a slight angle. So it helps to, when you're moving something, to think of which axes it's going on. So I want it to go straight down. So G and then Z, and now I'm going to pull it down. Okay, that was a lot of work just to do this one little bit. I'm sorry. All right, okay, so we've pulled it down. Excellent. I'll do a little bit more as well. I'll just do a little bit here. I'll do a little bit here. You can like play with the amount, the fall off, like so. You know, you can play with it. All right, cool. Now if we turn on our solidify modifier, we've got the thickness back, and you can see we've got some variation to the donut there. So let's continue on here. So let's pull this like so. I don't want to go too far because we're going to add some dribbles soon. Dribbles sounds gross, but you know, the little runoff droplets that's going to go down the donut like so. Okay, that is pretty good. Now you can see it's like partly like intersecting it. That down the donut like so. Okay, that is pretty good. Now you can see it's like partly like intersecting it. And that's obviously because we've got proportional editing. So it's actually kind of moving some of these ones that are up top and pulling it down as well. It's fine with the solidify modifier, but we're actually going to end up fixing it when we do the dribble anyway, because I'm going to introduce another modifier that's going to fix this. But anyways, let's do this. Let's do the dribble part. So I'm going to look for an area. Yeah, like let's go, yeah, and here where this bit's like running down. And I'm going to, I want to make this like a dribble that goes down the donut here. And currently I can't really continue to pull this. Like I could like get like a sharp point like that, but that does not look very good, right? We need more geometry essentially. So you might remember the hotkey. If we want to extrude something, it is E. But I can't just extrude one point like that, okay? Because there's no face there. There's nothing that's actually going to be rendered if I just pull one point down. So I need to select 2 points, okay? So 2 points like this. If I hit E and then Z and then pull down and then release, and then if I bring back my solidify modifier, you can see we've got more geometry. Doesn't look very good though. So let's add in another modifier, the same one that we used on the mug as well. It's the subdivision surface modifier. As I say, use these all the time. Use it for most objects, probably have a subdivision modifier because it's so useful. But one of the things it's good for is it like, besides adding detail, it like smooths things out for us. So that little hard little block that we had there has now turned into a smoothed droplet looking shape, which is exactly what we want. But look, dun, 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 it has separated from the donut. Now, in previous tutorials, I actually did like a thing that showed you how to like use this, but make it like snap onto the donut, and it got all complicated. Everyone screwed up their mesh at this point. You can do this by hand as well. You can like come in here and like try to pull this in piece by piece, but it's actually not necessary because there is a modifier that will just do it for you. So if you go to your add modifier stack and then go to deform, and then you're looking for the one called shrink wrap. And by the way, again, if you can't find it, just go up to here. Let's add in another modifier. Very good, right? We need more geometry, essentially a sharp point like that, but that does not look very good, right? We need more geometry essentially. So you might remember the hotkey. If we want to extrude something, it is E. But I can't just extrude one point like that, okay? Because there's no face there. There's nothing that's actually going to be rendered if I just pull one point down. So I need to select 2 points, okay? So 2 points like this. If I hit E and then Z and then pull down and then release, and then if I bring back my solidify modifier, you can see we've got more geometry. Doesn't look very good though. So let's add in another modifier, the same one that we used on the mug as well. It's the subdivision surface modifier. As I say, use these all the time. Use it for most objects, probably have a subdivision modifier because it's so useful. But one of the things it's good for is it like, besides adding detail, it like smooths things out for us. So that little hard little block that we had there has now turned into a smoothed droplet looking shape, which is exactly what we want. But look, dun, 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 it has separated from the donut. Now, in previous tutorials, I actually did like a thing that showed you how to like use this, but make it like snap onto the donut, and it got all complicated. Everyone screwed up their mesh at this point. You can do this by hand as well. You can like come in here and like try to pull this in piece by piece, but it's actually not necessary because there is a modifier that will just do it for you. So if you go to your add modifier stack and then go to deform, and then you're looking for the one called shrink wrap. And by the way, again, if you can't find it, just go up to here, type in shrink wrap, and you'll also find it there. So shrink wrap, what this is going to do is going to shrink it onto a mesh, but you have to define the mesh first in order to see it, because if you don't, it just has no effect. Absolutely, that's what the red is showing you. It's not doing anything. So your target, yeah, you can actually like select it from the drop down, or what most people do, you click the little eyedropper and then you select the object. Bam. All right, now it's working, and now we've got some serious Z fighting where the faces are overlapping, and this is horrible. You never want this. All right, So you'll remember when I was talking about the modifier that it works top to bottom. So essentially what we've done is we've gone add thickness, then add detail, and then shrink wrap all of that thickness onto the donut itself. So what we need to do is change the order of this and not go halfway, because that also won't do anything. We need to go all the way to the top so that the shrink wrap is happening first. So it's snapping it onto the mesh. Then it's adding the solidify modifier. Then underneath that, it's adding the subsurf modifier. And we can actually increase this, make it a level 2 for the viewport. And you can see it just adds a little bit extra detail there, okay? And you can go even higher, of course, but you will get, eventually it'll just get so slow for your computer and there's not really gonna be any point, but you can just go to level 2 for now. Okay, so to quickly show you as well what the shrink wrap is actually doing, because it's not that clear. But yeah, this is where it's that little piece is overhanging, and then it's essentially looking for the nearest point to find this mesh underneath it, and then it is just snapping it to that point. So it's pretty good. Like I can drag this like pretty far down, but there is an extent so I'm just doing another extrusion on this point. So as I pull it down, you can see it kind of loses it. There's a point where it just won't find the mesh anymore. So there's a point at which you should start to pull things into the mesh. It's not magic. It's not going to just magically find it. So if I just pull it all the way out, there's no way it's going to be able to find it. So there is a limit, but you can see it does make our job a lot easier because I can pull it down and I can start to make some big dribbles along my mesh here, and I don't have to really worry that much about the placement because it's just going to automatically snap itself to the donut. I just have to make sure that the dribbles are straight. And if you look at reference, which you should be doing, I'll put some reference on the link below on my website so you can have a look and just kind of go through it. But yeah, usually when like droplets form, they kind of the gravity kind of builds at a point and it kind of gets sucked from the top. And so you end up with this thin bit in the middle and then this globule, which is a crazy word, at the bottom there. But essentially it just means the piece at the bottom, I'm just gonna make a little bit thicker than the pieces above it. Okay, so that's one, but we should do more. So I'm gonna go around and I'm gonna add more. And just repeat the same thing. Just do an extrusion on these little points there and just kind of drag it down. So let's do that. Because yeah, I remember the first donut that I ever made. Oh, way back in the day, making the first donut. And I really I did one little dribble going down it. And then I always wanted to frame the camera so that it was looking at that because that was the most interesting part of the donut. And then I learned just exaggerate, just add little dribbles everywhere. That is a big part of being an artist is you look at reality and then you find the bits that are actually pleasing and then you exaggerate it. And that's what I'm doing. So, donuts typically don't have this many dribbles, but it's very pleasing. It just makes it look very gooey and there's so much icing. And you can see, by the way, I'm not doing the same shape also everywhere. So this is a half one, right? And I'm kind of looking for where I can add some different shapes. Why is that? There's a gap there. Oh, okay. Oh no. Yeah, I was recording for this tutorial and I recorded something and then I reverted it. But I've now got a giant face here where there should be not a giant face there. So what do? You've accidentally got this thing. There is, and this is, you obviously don't have to do this because this is not your problem, but I'm just going to use the knife tool, which is a way to do an incision on a mesh and just add more geometry freehand. So I've just fixed that little problem that I had there, but you hopefully should not have that problem. Yeah, I'm going to just pull this down. I'm going to turn on proportional editing. I'm going to add a little bit that's going down, and let's select these two, turn off proportional. Let's add another little bit that's going right here. Add a little bit of variance, and let's add another big one right here. Pull this one down. But this is the fun part, I mean, aside from the finicky, going sideways, looking at where it appears and then straightening it, but you get to kind of shape things and just with your eye, just play with it. It's actually one of the cool things of 3D. It's also why a lot of people get into 3D is they want to do art, but whenever they pick up a pencil, they just can't get the lines where they want it. And the great thing about 3D is that you've got points and you can move those points after the fact. You're not drawing freehand. So there's no case where you like screw up a line and you have to like rub it out and try again. Like you just grab a point and just kind of like move it around, like I'm doing right now. So that's one of the joys of 3D. I'm just doing filler talk if you can't tell. Just grab a few pieces, move them all down together. Why not? There we go. That's kind of interesting. I might just take this one at the bottom there off, and I'll just maybe pull these out just so we've got more variance that goes all the way around it. But play with it as much you want. You can pause this and, play with it. But I'm just trying to make it look generally appealing. Now, one way to improve this, you'll notice that the icing is separating from it, right? It's going up right there. And again, that's because of how subsurf modifiers work. There's a point here and there's a point here. So it has to make this really rounded shape. But real liquid, when it is in this state, when it's clinging to an object, this part here, as it hits it, that part will be like solid, right? And then the rest of it, like this part is round, but then this part is like hugging the actual surface. So thankfully, we can do that. There is a setting in the solidifier setting options, which I might have to move. There we go, so we can see it. Underneath edge data, there is an option here for, there we go, so we can see it. Underneath edge data, there is an option here for a crease. Okay, so what a crease is doing, we didn't really talk about it with the mug, but it's essentially on an edge, it's creasing it and saying like, instead of like doing that huge rounded thing, just kind of tighten it on that edge. Very similar to adding the geometry like what we did on the mug, but this is a way to do it without adding extra geometry. It does kind of add a little bit of stretching, but it's not really that noticeable on something like this. But that is very, very nice. Very solid. It's hugging it and it looks very pleasing. Excellent. Now we could as well, I didn't actually do this for my final one because I forgot. But I realized after, I was like, oh yeah, I guess like the part that's on the inside of the donut. Yeah, I forgot to do that. But yeah, you can also like do the exact same thing, just playing with it. If you find like it's kind of hard to like look at it inside the donut, if you just select the middle row, so if you just hold down Alt and then select on that middle row, you can use the same focus button, so numpad period or tilde and then view, and then that will just lock it on to those selected vertices. So that focus key that I mentioned, it works on in edit mode as well, which is good. So that focus and then view, and then that will just lock it on to those numpad period or tilde and then view, and then that will just lock it on to those selected vertices. So that focus key that I mentioned, it works on in edit mode as well, which is good. So yeah, I could just pull these down. Like this, and just, the camera's not really going to notice it. You just want to make sure that it's, not perfectly straight like mine was in the final render. It doesn't really, like, who's going to notice, who's going to tell, really? Um, Annoying people are going to point it out. The inside part's too straight. All right. So that's pretty good. Actually, something I might do, because I noticed, like, looking from the top, because this is where the camera is going to be, like, we're not really able to see much donut. Like, the icing is a little bit too far down. So I'm just going to grab some of these points here using proportional editing. I'm just going to pull them up to just expose a little bit more of the underlying donut, which is definitely going to make the donut look a little bit more handmade, because, like, obviously probably a professional donut from Krispy Kreme or something doesn't have this much variance in it, but it's okay. It does kind of help it give it a yeah, realistic kind of look. Now, there's one thing that would really improve the look of this icing, and that is thickness variation. Because if you go around it, you'll see that the exact, the distance from here to here is the exact same thing as, like, what it would be over here to here. And that's just not the case. We've got, like, icing that is dribbling down. These little droplets are kind of like breaking away. And what happens when those droplets break and then they kind of stop? They build up, right? So we should actually see these kind of like swell a little bit. They should be a little bit rounder at the heads of each of these points. Also, along the edges here, every little edge here should be a little bit more inflated than the rest of it. And although that sounds
Mana?
sounds like nothing. When you do it, when you actually add this little detail, it really does improve the realism. So we can't do that because all we've got is these little points here, okay? So just like what we did with the mug, there comes a time where you need to break the non-destructive workflow and apply your modifiers. So this shrink wrap here, by the way, when you apply something, you have to apply it in like top to bottom. So even really, although we only want to apply the solidify, that's the main one we want to do. We have to first of all apply the shrink wrap because that's the one that is first, and that's the one, like, if we if we applied this one first, we would lose the shrink wrap would have to go after it, and it would just, yeah, it would screw it up. So we have to apply the shrink wrap first. So go here and click apply. Okay. Now in edit mode, you can see we've still got those single points, but they're now snapped to the mesh. All right. But it means we no longer have that automatic snapping. So if I was to pull these out, you can see they're now separated from the mesh. So just keep that in mind. We still can't edit the mesh there because we haven't applied the solidify. So I'm going to apply the solidify now. And now we've got these points here from the mesh. So just keep that in mind. We still can't edit the mesh there because we haven't applied the solidify. So I'm going to apply the solidify now. And now we've got these points here. Okay, so now if I wanted to, with just these points, I could pull some of these points out, turning off proportional editing, and I could just pull them out a little bit. And that's better, but we don't have enough detail here. We need more geometry to play with in order to add this extra detail. So we need to apply our subsurf modifier. So I'm going to, on here, I'm going to hit apply. And actually there's a hotkey if you don't want to have to go to the drop down each time. Control A will apply the selected modifier. And now in edit mode, look at this. Now we've got all this extra geometry to play with. So now if I wanted to, I could turn on proportional editing. I could select one point. I could try and get a kind of a shape like this. That would be probably the best way to do it if I was restricted to edit mode. And that'll get me some of the way there. I could, pull individual points out. I could try and do that. But you can see it's very finicky. And it's not the tool to use. Because like I said, there are tools for everything in 3D to try to help you to do things better. So go to the top of your screen. We're currently in layout. That's all we've done so far. We're going to swap to sculpting. All right. Now, when you swap to a new one of these views here, it's assuming the default view of Blender, which is like when everything was like 10 meters long or whatever. So our donut is tiny. So we have to focus on the selected object. So I'm just going to hit numpad period. That hasn't worked. Okay, don't worry about that. All right. So instead of in sculpt mode, change to object mode. Then hit numpad period or view selected. And then now hit numpad period or view selected. And then now jump back to sculpt mode. And now we're back to it. For some reason, I thought focus. All right. So instead of in sculpt mode, change to object mode. Then hit numpad period or view selected. And then now jump back to sculpt mode. And now we're back to it. For some reason, I thought focus worked in sculpt mode. Yeah. All right. Sometimes you just teach something and then you go, oh, that never worked. What was I talking about? Anyway. Okay. In sculpt mode now, and make sure you're looking at the correct one. Okay. Not the donut, but the icing itself. If I was to now draw over this, you can see we're drawing into the mesh of the icing. Isn't that cool? All right. So what I want to do is I want to change my brush, and I want to find the one brush which is really going to help us here. And it is this one. The inflate deflate brush. Now your brush size here can be controlled by the size at the top, or there is a hotkey, F. And when you hit F, you just choose with your mouse like how big the size needs to be. Okay, so I can pull out. And then now, if I just draw over that little globule there, the end piece, it just adds a little bit of inflation. And I'm just pulling it around just slightly. I don't want to go too far, but just adding these little inflated points will really help this to look realistic. The other thing is you can actually shape some of the mesh as well. So there's another brush that I use all the time, which is the grab brush. You just essentially just pull mesh like that. So that's another easy way to just kind of move pieces around like so. You can just shape things like this, add a little bit of essentially just pull mesh like the grab brush, the mesh as well. So there's another brush that I use all the time, which is the grab brush. You just essentially just pull mesh like that. So that's another easy way to just kind of move pieces around like so. You can just shape things like this, add a little bit of extra detail if you want. Yep. And all is well. So you can see I'm doing a little bit on the edge here again because all the edges there should have a little bit of buildup of the fluid because that's where gravity kind of makes it stall and like stop because it just kind of like runs out of like the tension will be more than the gravity that's pulling it down. You get the idea. Anyways, play with that as much as you like. But of course, we have some homework to finish off this video. So what I want you to make is this hidden object, which is a plate for your donut. So have a look at the shape here that I've got and have a think about how you would go about creating this and try to do it yourself. Just give it a stab. Even if you don't feel confident, you don't feel like you could achieve it, just give it a go. There's a hint. We've got some modifiers on the right here, and I will also show you what the wireframe looks like because that will probably help some people out as well. Okay, so that's a pretty big hint. But yeah, give it a go. Without any instruction from me, have a stab at that. In the next part, I'll very quickly show you how to create this. If you get completely lost, you can join me in that part, but please have a go at trying to do it yourself. Anyway, go ahead, join me in the next part after you have tried to create this by yourself. Welcome back.